lots of entrepreneurs, and by the way, lots of CEOs now, I wouldn't even call them entrepreneurs, they're running real companies, kind of wish they had the information they would have learned, so to speak, in an academic setting. Research-based information. And it's hard to get it, it's hard to know it. They're not going to sit in a class, they're not going to go back to business school. So
돈 버는 법을 고민하다 보면 알바, 취직 등 사회에 발을 들였던 시점은 각자 달라서도 결국 사업을 고려하게 되는 시점이 오게 됩니다. 하지만 사업은 어느 정도의 경험과 지식만으로는 쉽게 성공할 수 없습니다. 어렵게 성공한 사람을 찾아가 만나도 내 상황에 맞는 가르침을 얻거나 사업에 대해 구체적으로 배울 확률은 매우 낮은데요. 컴퓨터 공학 전공 후 하버드 비즈니스 스쿨에 들어갔다가 사업 지망생 900명 중 혼자 비즈니스 교수가 된 노암 왓서먼이 성공한 사업체들의 패턴을 알아냈습니다.
I was asked a decade ago, the Wall Street Journal asked me to be one part of the debate on can entrepreneurship be taught? And I thought it'd be fun if they had asked me to argue the no part of it, but they asked me to argue the yes part. But the analogy that I found helpful for being able to think through and argue that part is to a chemistry student. I'm sure that there are lots of people who are, going through chemistry in high school and other things like that within Korea. When you're learning chemistry, you aren't just put into a chemistry lab and told, go and mix these chemicals, see what blows up, and that's how you'll learn how to become a chemist. Instead, we teach you what we know about chemistry, what we know about which chemicals are compatible, which ones are going to be problematic. We do that within a safe environment. And then once you've learned that baseline, you'll be much better armed to go into the chemistry lab, not have things blow up, and maybe also discover some brand new things. Same thing when it comes to entrepreneurship. There are a bunch of things that you can learn, whether it's in the classroom, now that after 30 years worth of research, we can really highlight for you, these are the main risk factors that you might be heading towards. These are the biases you're going to have that you should be thinking a little more consciously about. These are the things where your heart is going to mislead you and you can bring your head to it. And then also, when we can be able to have you work for someone else and be able to learn how to be in a team, how to be able to develop leadership capabilities, other things like that, then that's a lot more of preparing you for the chemistry lab so that when we send you out into the world to found, that you're going to be much better armed to do it well, to be able to have a lot of the fundamental principles that when you run into something brand new, you'll be able to rely on those, to be able to think through them, a lot more of the pattern recognition you've been able to build. And so whether it's through class, whether it's through being able to go and get your MBA with something that's strong in entrepreneurship, and then work for someone for a little bit to be able to gain a lot more of the practical experience and be able to take the concepts and apply them, then you'll be much better armed to be able to then take something unique and be able to mix it together, be able to see if you can impact the world through it.
I want to touch upon the essentials of when building a team or trying to start something.
I think what you were thinking of was in terms of my data, it was coming from the two biggest industries in the US for entrepreneurship. That was from technology and from life sciences. A key thing, though, is that at least the issues that I like to focus on, there are a bunch of ways in which industries are very different from each other and are going to lead in very different directions for the conclusions you can draw. So just those two on their own, tech and life sciences, when it comes to product development, they're going to be very different. Even when it comes to financing, they're going to be pretty different from each other. Very different types of investors, very different types of horizons. They'll be looking at things like that. What I like to focus on, and a lot of the things that we've been talking about, and also a lot of things that we can get insights from, the Torah and the timeless and things like that, is the human factor. It's the human issues, the biases, the interpersonal and the working together and things like that. And one of the things that I really like about studying that, A, it is one of the most important factors for a founding team, but B, it is also timeless. It is the kind of thing that someone who was founding, Henry Ford, when he was founding a century ago, had to face these people issues, these biases, these decisions and things like that. Mark Zuckerberg's great-grandson, a century from now, who is going to be founding something, will have to face the same people issues and things like that. And that's where the timeless lessons will apply to all of the things that are going on there. And so the things that I found, I wanted the two industries so I could test around that. I've gone now into other countries to be able to do field research and be able to understand what things are truly different and other things like that. And in general, when it comes to these people issues, the interpersonal and the biases that we all have and things like that, I've been finding far more that it's universal. rather than that it's idiosyncratic to a specific industry or to a domain or to some kind of a strategy that they're pursuing.
Speaking of full potential, what do you think halts major people to become better at themselves?
Well, there's two key parts of what I think we have to get in order to be more effective. Two roadmaps, if you will, of what we have to learn. They're first the roadmap of yourself. You have to get a lot better self-awareness about your strengths, your weaknesses, the human biases that will get in the way of our being able to make better decisions, long-term decisions, ones that are really balancing all the things that give us a lot more of the long-term effectiveness in life. And so first off, there's learning about yourself. And then the second roadmap is the roadmap of the path I'm heading down. A lot of times we don't even realize when we're making momentous decisions. And then we don't realize, even if we realize we're at a fork in the road where we're making a decision, we don't realize what the longer term implications are. If I take the right fork, if I take the left fork, what are going to be the longer term implications for me? And so the more that we can be able to have people learn about that roadmap, about you plan to do this kind of a career, you plan to create this kind of a family, you plan to be able to have these kinds of other activities that are going to bring you some reward. If we can have them be able to understand the longer term and then back into now how to be able to make better decisions that are going to be setting us up for the long term, then we're going to be able to do it a lot better. A microcosm of that is entrepreneurship. So we hear about the high rate of failure within startups. A lot of those are because of self-inflicted wounds. It's because entrepreneurs are making decisions that they think are going to be good long-term ones, but as it turns out, there's a lot of ways in which it actually causes both short-term and long-term problems. And if we can educate them both about themselves, the roadmap of themselves, about what biases are going to get in the way, and then also when are the key forks in the road going to come, what are the ways in which you can set yourself up a lot better for the long term, then you're going to be able to be much better as a founder. You're going to be able to have a lot of the better success rather than failure. And that's where also the natural inclinations that founders have, unfortunately, when it comes to a lot of the decisions they make, tend to lead them in the wrong direction. It doesn't heighten the potential, it actually heightens the risks. And that's why you see the high rate of failure within startups.
I think there's a fine line between becoming a successful entrepreneur and becoming egotistic person who's seeking maximum profit. How do you find a balance between those two? How do you direct oneself properly to become a successful person?
Some of it is what are the ways in which you are dealing with fundamental principles. Are you finding a pain in the market? Are you finding things that people really need to be able to be solved for them? Or are you finding something that's a nice to have? If you find a pain in the market, then you are helping society, and society will also hopefully help you. You're going to be able to have people who are going to be willing to pay for your product because it will be some real solution for them. Unfortunately, a lot of times in their passion, people who get an idea will disregard a lot of the signals that it is only something you really love. And there aren't a whole bunch of people out there that also love that same product. And so you have to do a bunch of testing, you have to do a bunch of validation. This is actually one of the biases that we have, that if anything, we celebrate the passionate founder. We celebrate someone who brings passion to what they do as being a key part of their magic. But we also have to understand that passion comes with perils. Passion will cloud your thinking. Passion will make you driven to make this company get off the ground, even if no one else wants the product you are selling. It will blind you to the signals from the market that you have to adjust in some way. You have to have your product fit the market better. And that's just when it comes to the business prospects. Your passion will also mislead you about whether you're ready for it, about whether you have developed the skills, the contacts, and everything else that you need to be able to succeed at being able to create this company. It might even mislead you about your personal state of readiness for it. You're diving in as a founder who's not going to be earning a paycheck until the customer money starts coming in, but yet you have a spouse and a couple of kids, and they're dependent on you to be bringing the money in. In your passion to found, you might be causing devastation in your personal life because of that. And so on all of these things, there's a lot more of the forethought that if it goes into it, you'll be able to set yourself up a lot better to be able to succeed, to be able to have the impact and be able to not devastate the things that are most cherished to you. For instance, if you can think down to those 3 domains that we were just talking about, the business circumstances, how attractive this business is going to be to the world, your career circumstances, are you prepared? And then your personal circumstances. If you are thinking down the road, I'm going to found, say, in 3 or 4 years, you can be able to evaluate your circumstances, see where there are holes in them, and then be able to use the blessing of time to be able to work on those, to be able to fill those holes. So if you're missing a critical career piece that you didn't have checked off yet, you don't have any sales experience, pretty important for any entrepreneur who's out there. Well, if you are starting tomorrow and you have no sales experience, you're not going to be able to fill in that hole. If you have 3 or 4 years worth of the blessing of time that you're thinking proactively, you're looking down the road and you're realizing I better work on that piece, you can go find a role in which you can get some sales experience. You can learn on someone else's tab. You can be able to have ways that you can use that blessing of time to fill that time and with the productive building a better foundation for yourself. And the same thing on the personal side, you can be taking a whole bunch of your current paycheck for those 3 or 4 years and sock that away in the bank. Save it up as your cushion so that when you are starting the venture and not having any paycheck or anything like that, you'll have some of the financial security that you'll be able to assure your spouse, the kids about, that we're not going to be homeless. We're going to be able to afford food. Well, we have a runway of 6 to 9 months that we've been able to save up. And so a lot of that is really building the early foundation, even before you start something, that you're going to be able to be a lot better at being able to do it once you do start it.
So is there any students of yours that you taught who became noticeable or famous, who made an impact to the world?
First year that I was teaching at Harvard, one of the students in my entrepreneurship class, his name was Jeremy Stoppelman. Jeremy ended up dropping out of school to become the founder CEO of Yelp, grew it and was leading it throughout his life on the way. So that was one of the key impact ones. I've had students who founded major nonprofits also, taking a lot of the lessons that they were creating out of that. There was one student I had a little bit more than a decade ago at Harvard. His name was Adam Enbar. He founded what's called Flatiron School. That was one of the pioneers in the domain of being able to have people learn for 6 months how to be computer programmers and then be able to get guaranteed jobs coming out of it. And that's completely changed a lot of that industry. Adam is actually now joining us at Yeshiva University to teach my Founders Dilemmas course. So essentially what he was as a student in, then went from there to do venture capital. And then a couple of years into that, founded Flatiron, a pioneering company, and then exited from it, sold it to WeWork. And then he is now coming back to teach our students at Yeshiva University about all of those experiences that he had and how Founders Dilemmas set the baseline, and now how he can be able to show them how the acting on the principles is able to help you be able to found. And so on a recurring basis, there's lots of students that come out and are able to have the heightened impact because of it.